So here we go with, on the decimals review, part 2, the word problems. We're going to do numbers 6 through 10 in this video. Starting off with problem number 6, which says, from your 8.4 ounces of candy in number 5, you give 2.55 ounces to a friend. How many ounces of candy do you still have? So this is quite simply, you're giving the 2.55 ounces. You could think of that as your friend is taking that away. Take away, that's very sloppy. Take away. Which means we're going to subtract in this problem. Okay, so you're starting with your 8.4 ounces, and we are going to subtract the 2.55 ounces for your friend. And again, make sure we get that decimal point there. So I would probably do this vertically rather than horizontally, do it up and down instead of left and right. And remember the rule, you have to line up the decimal point when you do the subtraction. Make sure that you subtract the tens place from the tens place and the ones place from the ones place. Okay, so when I do this, I'll go ahead and put my decimal point down for the answer. Get that decimal point. Okay. And remember that here in the hundredths place for the 8.4, there's nothing written. So if we need, we can write a 0. And in this case, we do need to put that 0. Okay, let me make that a better 0. There we go. Because we're subtracting the top number, take away the bottom number. So I have to start here with 0, take away 5. Can't do that, so 0 has to borrow. The 4 becomes a 3, 0 becomes a 10, and now I'm set up. I'm actually going to do all my borrowing here. If I look in the tens place, before I subtract, I notice that, ooh, 3 on top and 5 on the bottom. That's going to be a problem, so I'm going to need to borrow from the 8. 8 becomes a 7, so the 3 can become a 13. And now I'm set up to do all my subtraction. So going back now to the hundredths place, 10 take away 5 is going to give me 5. In the tens place now I have 13. I already borrowed 13. Take away 5 would give me 8. And then over here in the ones place, I got my decimal point 7. Then take away 2 would give me 5. So, and that would be ounces. How many ounces of candy? 5.85 ounces, or 5 and 85 hundredths would be my final answer there. Remember that with subtraction you can check. You can do 2.55 plus the answer 5.85, and you should get the original 8.4, or 8.40 in this case. So you can check that on your own, but there is number 6. Number 7 says, you are installing baseboards in a room. The lengths needed for each wall are 10.3 meters, 8.14 meters, 10.3 meters, and 7 meters. What is the total length of baseboard needed? So here what we're going to do, we're going to put all these lengths together. Putting them together. Because maybe if I imagine like I've got a rectangular room, if I draw a picture of this, and then here might be the 10.3, and then on the other side also 10.3, and then maybe 8.14 up here, and then maybe, I don't need the baseboard for this section because there's a door there or something, but the total length on the bottom there is 7. So I'm putting this together, which means I'm going to add all these lengths. That's, remember, part of figuring out these word problems is figuring out the operation. We're going to add here. So I've got 4 numbers to add, and when I add I have to line up the decimal point. So I've got 10.3, 8.14, line that decimal point up, another 10.3, and then 7 in the ones place, and if you need a decimal on that 7, it's to the right of the 7. So we're adding all this up. Okay, and again, make sure you line up that decimal point, and then on my answer I'll put that decimal point straight down. And then make sure you're adding tenths to tenths and hundredths to hundredths and the ones place to the ones place. So if I want, I can fill in a 0 here and a 0 here and a couple of zeros here. It might help me. And now as I look in the hundredths place, I've got 0 plus 4 plus 0 plus 0. So that's going to give me 4 in the hundredths place. In the tens place, I've got 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 0, gives me a total of 7. And then in the ones place, I've got 0 plus 8 plus 0 plus 7, gives me 15, and I've got to carry a 1. And now in the tens, no th, tens place, I've got 1, 1, and 1, which is going to give me 3. So finally, let me rewrite that so maybe it's a little bit nicer. 35.74, and that would be meters. We're talking length, we're measuring this in meters. 10.3 meters, 8.14 meters, meters. So meters is the unit for our answer, meters. There we go. And there is number 7. Number 8 on your decimals review says, when you go to bed one night, you notice that the snow on the ground is 3.51 centimeters thick. It snows overnight, and when you wake up in the morning, the snow is 8 centimeters thick. How much did it snow overnight? And this question here might be helpful to kind of reword it, to think of it this way. We can compare, we can say how much more snow is there now compared to last night. It's essentially asking the same question. How much more snow is there now compared to last night? So when we have how much more, whoops, let's get that pencil. How much more, that's usually going to be subtraction. Okay, we can think, well, you know, we got 3.51 last night, so maybe this is how thick the snow is, how deep the snow is, and now it's 8 centimeters thick. 3.51 there, 8 there, and so we're wondering what's this difference? How much more? So difference would be subtract. That's what we're going to do here. We're going to subtract. And we're going to take the bigger number, 8 centimeters, and we're going to subtract the smaller number, 3.51 centimeters. Okay? And again, make sure you can see that decimal point. Rule for subtraction. Got to line up the decimal point. So 8 is in the ones place. The decimal point, if I need it, is to the right. So 8.0 if you want. We'll fill that in. Take away 3.51. And then I'll go ahead and I'll put the decimal point on my answer right away. Here again, sometimes we want to put zeros in, sometimes we don't need to. Here we need to. So I need to do 0 take away 1 to start with here in the hundredths place. That's what we're going to start with. Got to have that 0 on top. So 0 take away 1, can't do that. 0 looks next door to that 0 to borrow, but can't. So remember, don't borrow from 0. Take the 80, 80, and when you borrow there, 80 becomes 79, and then this can become a 10. Okay. And again, if I check, I'm good in the hundredths place now, I'm good in the tenths place, 9 take away 5 will work, and I'm good in the ones place, 7 take away 3. So now I'm ready. I'm going to go ahead and do that subtraction in the hundredths place. 10 take away 1 will give me a 9. In the tenths place, 9 take away 5 will give me 4. And in the ones place, 7 take away 3 will give me another 4.49. And again, if I want to be nice, we're talking centimeters, 3.51 centimeters, 8 centimeters, so this would be 4.49 centimeters, or some of you might know cm is the abbreviation for that. And remember, I can check this if I want to. I can add 3.51 plus my answer 4.49. When I do that, I should get 8. It'll probably come out as 8.00, but that is the same as 8. Alright, but there's number 8. Number 9 on your decimals review says the baseboards from number 7 are sold at a price of $4.60 for 2.5 meters. How much would 1 meter of baseboard cost? So here I notice a rate jumps out at me, $4.60 for 2.5 meters. Right there, that is a rate. Comparing the dollar amount, the money, to the length in meters. So remember, I can write a fraction with that. I can either do 4.60 over 2.5 meters. I'm just going to do m for meters. Or I can flip that around. I can do 2.5 meters on top over $4.60 on the bottom. And how I know which fraction I'll use, I have to look at the question. So if I go here to the question now, how much would 1 meter of baseboard cost? So I'm going to start with that 1 meter. 1 meter. And I'm going to multiply it by the rate. Because I have 1 meter here, I need 2.5 meters on the bottom. Remember those units. Whatever I have here, I also have to have the same unit here. And even though this is singular, one of them meter, this is plural meters, they still match. It's the same unit. Alright, so that means then that $4.60 goes on top. And now, if I remember, this is my setup. I'm going to do the first number 1 times the top number 4.60. I'm going to make it a little bit simpler. We'll just do 4.6 and then divided by 2.5. Okay, let's get those decimal points so you can see them. Remember, if my final answer is money, we want to give 2 decimal places. But in my work, I just need 1 decimal place. I don't need the 0 in the hundredths place. If it was my final answer, I would say 4.60 or $4.60. Alright, but anyways, as we proceed with this then, remember that multiplying by 1 times 4.6 is not going to do anything. It's just going to give me 4.6. So really this is 4.6 divided by 2.5. And let's see if I've got enough room to squeeze this in here. So I'll do 2.5 goes on the outside. Inside goes the 4.6. Okay. Remember the rule for dividing with decimals. The outside number has to be a whole number. We're not going to mess with decimal on the outside. So I'm going to take this decimal point and I move it once to the right, which means the decimal point on the inside I move once to the right also. Do the exact same thing. And that decimal point then gets kicked straight up on top after I move it. So that's where the decimal point is going to be in my answer. And now what I'm doing really, if you want to rewrite it, we're really just doing how many times does 25 go into 46? Okay, I'm going to do my work over here with the purple still, but that's really what we're doing. How many times will 25 go into 46? So you might want to know your multiplication by 25, multiplication facts, 25 times 1, 25 times 2, all the way up to 25 times 9. It's just going to make your division a lot easier. So I'm going to pause this real quick. I'm going to figure all that out. And I suggest you do the same thing too. Maybe pause the video, do 21 times 1 all the way up to 25 times 9, because that'll make the dividing nicer. Okay, so there I've got all my multiplication over here. Multiplication by 25 by single digits all the way up to 25 times 9. And I did decide I'm going to rewrite the division. I'm going to do it over here just to make sure I have enough room. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to look how many times does 25 go into 4? It doesn't. 25 is too big to go into 4. So how many times does 25 go into 46? Well, if I look over here, 25 times 1 is 25. 25 times 2 is 50. 50 is too big. We're trying to get 46. So that means 1, and 25 will go into 46 one whole time. Now I'm going to multiply by 25, subtract 46, take away 25 is going to give me a 1 there and a 2 there. And now with decimals, until my remainder is 0, I have to put a 0 here and bring it down and keep dividing. Okay, so now I'm doing, how many times will 25 go into 210? Well, if I look over here, 200 works. 225 is too big. So 8 is the next winner. That's the next number I'm going to put up here. And I already got the multiplication over here. 25 times 8 is 200. So write down 200. That's the multiplication step. Subtract, you're going to get a 0, a 1, and a 0. I'm not going to write that 0 though. And again, until your remainder is 0, you have to write down another 0 and keep going. So bring down another 0. Let's get that. Now it's how many times will 25 go into 100? And exactly, you're right there, exactly 4 times. So write down your 4, and if you want to go ahead and do the multiplication, you should be coming up with a remainder of 0. And so now we are done. There's our answer. Let's see, we are talking about cost, so that's money, so this will be $1.84. 1.84 is our dollar amount. So that might be a better way to phrase the final answer. There you go for number 9. Alright, and here we go, last word problem on the review, number 10. It says, it takes a runner 6.5 minutes to go 1 mile. How long will it take her to run a race that is 6.2 miles? And of course, we're assuming that, you know, she can keep up that rate of 6.5 minutes for every mile, that she's not going to get really tired or anything. But again, as I look here, I see 6.5 minutes and 1 mile, and those are being compared. So this is a rate that I think is going to help me. So remember, with that rate, I can either do 6.5 minutes on top, I'll just put min for minutes, and 1 mile on the bottom, or I might flip it over and I might have 1 mile on the top and 6.5 minutes on the bottom. So I got to look at the question to tell me. The question asks about 6.2 miles. So if I start with that, 6.2 miles, that'll help me with which of these two fractions I want to use. Miles here means I want miles or 1 mile on the bottom. And then that means that the 6.5 minutes has to go on the top. Okay. Let's try writing that minute again. That's better. Okay, so that's my setup with the rate. Miles here, 1 mile on the bottom. Got to match those. Now I'm going to do the first number times the top number and divide by the bottom number. That's always how we do a whole number times a fraction. That's how we always can do that, remember. And again, I say divide by 1. Really, I'm going to save time. I'm not going to bother, because dividing by 1 won't change it. If it's divided by 2 or divided by 7, then I would do it. But dividing by 1 will give me the exact same result. So multiplication, that's the easy one. You don't have to worry about lining up the decimal. In fact, actually here they do line up, but that's just a coincidence. We don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to start here with 5 times 2, 2 times 5, which gives me 10. Carry a 1. 5 times 6 now gives me 30, plus the 1 gives me 31. Okay, remember, when I come to this 6, I'm going to start right here. That's where I'm going to put down the result. Some people like put a 0 here. Some people put an X. I just like to leave it blank. But 6 times 2, I'm going to put the result right here to start with. So 6 times 2 is 12, carry 1. Hey, I've already got a 1 there. And then 6 times 6 is 36, plus the 1 gives me 37. So just doing that multiplication as if they are whole numbers, not worrying about the decimal point, because that'll come at the end, remember. So 0 with nothing gives me 0 when I add. 1 plus 2 gives me 3. 3 plus 7 gives me 10. Carry 1 there. And 1 plus 3 gives me 4. So the only thing I have to do now to finish this is to count up the digits to the right of the decimal point. So here I've got 1 digit to the right and a second digit. 2 digits total to the right. So in my answer I want 1, 2, and there goes my decimal point. Okay. So we get 40.30, or an easier way to write this would just be 40.3. We do not need the 0 in the hundredths place. It's okay to have it, but it's not needed. And then finally, if I want to give a nice answer, instead of just the number, the question is how long. We're measuring that in minutes, so this would be 40.30 or 40.3 minutes. And I'm really not doing good with my M's here, but that's alright. 40.30 or 40.3 minutes. Final answer. And we're done.